Hello students. Actually, in the last lecture, we have seen about some receptors, basic introduction to the uh, central nervous system and related to the cholinergic drugs. But we have taken some short review about the receptor. But I want to most I want to greater focus on the receptor in this lecture, and simultaneously I will go through the some uh, cholinomimetic agent and details regarding that. For example, their structure, how to remind them, their mnemonics related to the remembering the drugs related to the cholinergic agent, and simultaneously the detailed SAR and the drugs under study in the PCS syllabus. So, if you go for receptors of the acetylcholine, then I just reviewed some basics regarding the receptor. That there are two types of a cholinergic receptor, muscarinic receptor and nicotinic receptor. So at the muscarinic receptor, effects are produced by the injection of a muscarine, which are generally blocked by the atropine. And at the nicotinic receptor, effect are generally produced by the nicotine, and these whatever the effects are there, they are observed experimentally when muscarinic receptor are blocked and larger doses of acetylcholine are administered. So multiple subtypes of muscarinic as well as the nicotinic receptors are there. But traditional classification of a muscarinic and nicotinic receptor is adequate to describe the actions of most of the drugs. And nonetheless, one must aware about these subtypes in the era of rapidly developing molecular pharmacology. So muscarinic receptor, this is the general difference between the muscarinic and nicotinic receptor. So whatever the green points are there, green blocks are there, they are related to the muscarinic receptor, and blue are there for the nicotinic receptor. So this is a general uh, points to be considered for the means for the differentiation between the muscarinic and nicotinic receptors. So we already discussed about it, and we have done a short review about this which type of receptors are present in the heart, different types of organs and their effects. So now we are moving to the nicotinic receptor. So nicotinic receptors are generally they are ligand gated ion channel. We already seen that nicotinic receptors. So nicotinic receptor belongs to the family of a ligand gated ion channel. The nicotinic receptor is the glycoprotein consisting of five distinct subunits with a variability in this subunit, that is alpha 1, alpha 2, and so on, and beta 1, beta 2, and so on. So uh, there are many combinations are possible to get the alpha unit of a 5 subunit. For example, in the nicotinic receptor of a muscle tissue, there are two alpha subunit, and one subunit each of beta and gamma. So beta, gamma, and delta, which are indicated as a alpha 2, beta, gamma, uh, delta. Okay, so the mature muscle has a nicotinic receptor as a alpha 2, beta, gamma, epsilon. So these are various combinations related to the um, receptor types. So there are again lots of examples, like mature muscle has a nicotinic receptor alpha 2, beta, gamma, epsilon. Main ganglionic subtype is alpha 2, beta 3. Then the nicotinic receptor found in the brain are generally uh, uh, type alpha 5. So lots of examples are there. So each of these five subunits possesses four transmembrane domain, which span the membrane, and the transmembrane domain of a number two forms the pore pore lining of a receptor. So the transmembrane domain of a N terminal. Okay, so there are these are five T2 helices which are sharply kinked inward and halfway through the membrane, forming the construction, and which are believed to uh, uh, the site for acetylcholine binding site for the acetylcholine. So there are two types of acetylcholine binding site: N terminal region, on the N terminal region of two subunits. So each five subunits possesses four transmembrane domain which span the membrane, and the transmembrane domain of a two form the pore lining. So nicotinic receptor, they are generally uh, nicotinic receptor generally present in the muscle, ganglion, and CNS, and that's why they are classified as a muscle nicotinic receptor, ganglionic nicotinic receptor, CNS nicotinic receptor. The physiological effect of this uh, acetylcholine on the nicotinic receptor is a temporary depolarization of an end plate region, and this depolarization result in a muscle contraction at the neuromuscular junction, or as a which are occur as a autonomic ganglia or continuation of a nerve impulses. So the total there are main major types are the ganglionic and CNS type. So generally ganglionic type uh, nicotinic receptor, their examples are the agonist, and they having agonist as well as antagonist. So agonist of a ganglionic nicotinic receptor is a acetylcholine, carbachol, nicotine, um, uh, epibutidine. These are the some example as a which are act as a agonist for the ganglionic nicotinic receptor, and antagonist is a mecalamine, then trimethophan. These are the some blockers, antagonist for the ganglionic nicotinic receptor. Simultaneously, CNS type nicotinic receptor, they are generally present in the brain, and uh, pre and post synaptic cleft, as well as there are generally examples are the nicotine as a agonist, then epibutadine, acetylcholine, cytosine. So these are the agonists for the CNS nicotinic receptor. Then their antagonists are the mecalamine, then methyl aconitin. So some example, these are the antagonists for the uh, CNS nicotinic receptor. So now we are moving to the muscarinic receptor. So muscarinic receptor, they are generally uh, most probable site for action of acetylcholine. So there are two types of a model present in the uh, uh, generally designed for the better understanding of this muscarinic receptor, because most probably the drugs which are agonist as well as antagonists related to the cholinergic agent probable to the muscarinic receptor actions. So now muscarinic receptor, they are generally prior to the isolation and structural characterization of muscarinic receptor, the hypothetical structure of muscarinic receptor was developed, and there are nearly two models. First model is a early model of a they are known as early model of a muscarinic receptor, in which you can see here there is a 1 minute. Uh, hmm. Here you can see that there is a particular binding site is given, and at every step there is a acetylcholine molecule, how it binds to the receptor that is given. Means, for example, if this is a cross section area is there, that is for hydrophobic, then plane region is for hydrogen bonding, then again this is ionic forces, means electrostatic force of attraction is there. This one is electrostatic force of attraction. Then the straight vertical lines, they are representing hydrophobic forces. So but generally this model fails because there are some reasons that generally the negative charge generally uh, this model shows the ionic bonding of acetylcholine to the receptor by the electrostatic attraction between the positive charge of a quaternary nitrogen and negative charge at the anionic site of a receptor, this one. So the negative charge on the receptor may be provided by the carboxylation of a amino acid uh, as aspartic acid, glutamic acid, or other binding sites or other binding forces like that of a hydrogen bond between the esteric oxygen. This one is a esteric oxygen. Um, this is a esteretic site. So uh, there may be a chances of other binding forces like hydrogen bond between the ester oxygen of acetylcholine and hydroxyl group of amino acid like that of a serine. So this model could explain the requirement of a quaternary nitrogen and ester oxygen group, but could not explain the requirement of at least two methyl group at a quaternary nitrogen, this one, and the fact that all the potent cholinergic agonists have only 5 atom between quaternary nitrogen and terminal hydrogen atom. Okay, so that's why the subsequent model developed, which explain the binding of acetylcholine to the receptor by various types of forces. So that's why the another model developed, that is uh, in which there is a proposed that the binding site that accommodates quaternary nitrogen of acetylcholine and muscarine, uh, which is known as a site 1, this one, and this site is at a distance 3 angstrom from the hydrogen bonding site. Okay, hydrogen bonding site, uh, which is known as a site 2, and which bind to the ester oxygen of acetylcholine and ring nitrogen of a muscarine. Okay, so at a 5.7 Armstrong, there is a which is from a site 1, that is a site 3, which interact with the C double bond O of acetylcholine, this one. Okay, so uh, and OH of muscarine. So these are the specific shape triangular shape model which is generally developed, which is a newer one and better one. So on the basis of that, the methyl group are held by the hydrophobic as well as the van der Waals forces, and better understanding is given by this receptor model. So here you can see that there is a site 1, site 3. Okay, then again, explanation of this one is that the molecular cloning established a molecular structure and subtypes of a muscarinic receptor uh, is generally shown here. The muscarinic receptor, G protein coupled receptor, like all the other GPCR muscarinic receptor, are anchored to the residues, and they consist of 7 transmembrane domains. Okay, these are the 7 transmembrane domains. Each transmembrane domain is made up of a alpha helix of about 20 hydrophobic amino acids. Okay, these are made up of 20 hydrophobic amino acids. The transmembrane domain are joined by 3 extracellular loops and 3 intracellular loops. Okay, 3 extracellular and sorry, um, 3 extracellular. These are the 3 extracellular, and these are the 3 intracellular um, loops. The loops are hydrophilic in the nature, and N terminus is a extracellular, and C terminus is a intracellular. Okay, this is the intracellular side, this is the extracellular side. The aspartic acid, uh, then threonine, then tyrosine, they form a binding pocket for the muscarinic receptor. So simultaneously their positions are also given, like that of aspartic acid is present at a 105, then threonine present at a 189, then tyrosine has a 381 in this transmembrane domain. Okay, so transmembrane domain, it is known as a TMD. Okay, so TMD3, TMD5, TMD6. So on the basis, see, this one is a TMD 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. So on the basis of that, their positions are generally determined. So the guanine nucleotide regulatory protein, to which these receptors are coupled, are composed of a three subunit, alpha, beta, and gamma. These are the alpha, beta, gamma. Actually, it is a G protein coupled receptor, so that's why it contains these three subunits, and to which the receptor are coupled. So they are composed of a three subunit, alpha, beta, gamma, which link to the receptor to the effector. Effector means the particular site where the action is desired. Then which in turn produces the second messenger. So when means whatever the G protein coupled receptor is related to the particular actions, means when particular drug is bind to the receptor at a particular site in the receptor, then there is a series of or chain of catalytic enzymatic reactions, and on the basis of that the reaction proceeds, and the some mechanical changes or some catalytic changes happen into the cell, and the action of a drug ceases. So there are various types of second messengers are present. For example, adenylate cyclase, okay, guanylate cyclase. So these second messengers get activated, and on the basis of that, the actions are dependent. So there is a transduction mechanism for the muscarinic receptor, which is generally like this. So muscarinic receptor act through the G protein coupled receptor. So G protein, or it is also called as a GTP related protein, or guanine nucleotide regulatory protein. You can call it as a guanine nucleotide regulatory protein. So at the resting state, G protein has a strong affinity for GDP. Okay. See here, you can see that. Uh, See this one. So this is a G protein coupled receptor. At the resting state, it has a binding site for the GDP, and remain bound to the it remain bound to the receptor, G protein coupled receptor. So it is named as a G protein coupled receptor. Means what? GDP bind to the G protein. So that's why it is a coupling reaction between them, and it is depending upon the particular conformation of a receptor at the resting stage as well as at the active state. Means whenever there is activation, there is a conformational changes happen, and the binding of a GDP to this receptor get changes, and it will get thrown out from the receptor. So this is the transaction mechanism behind the G protein coupled receptor. So in the resting stage, the G protein has a strong affinity to the GDP, and it remains bound to the receptor. So the changes occurring to the receptor, means conformational changes happen, which are conveyed to the G protein, and then conformation of a G protein changes, and now the G protein loses its affinity for the GDP, and GDP get displaced from the um, displaced by the GTP. Now GTP get bind. Okay, so the alpha 1 subunit of a GTP, alpha 1 subunit, and alpha 1 GDP alpha 1 subunit plus GTP complex dissociate from the beta and gamma, and both GTP complex and beta gamma subunit interact with the membrane bound effector Actually, here there is a phospholipase C and adenylate cyclase are present. So, or ion channel is there. There are two types of a mechanism. Either there is a activation of a second messenger, or there may be a opening of a ion channel on the which is based on the conformation of receptor. So, ion channel, it may be any type of a channel like potassium channel, calcium channel. So they are independently or in the parallel manner get activated. The alpha subunit possesses GTPase activity, and quickly it will get hydrolyzed GDP to the GDP, and again the signal get terminated and signal get transmitted, at which the alpha, beta, gamma subunit get reunite, and again the resting stage of that G protein couple receptor call back, and again GTP get bind to the this G protein. So this is a transaction mechanism related to this. And the odd number muscarinic receptor, like generally there are total 5 types of muscarinic receptor: M1, M2, M3, M4, M5, and these odd number muscarinic receptor, for example M1, M3, and M5, they activate the uh, uh, G protein, which increases phospholipase C activity. The even numbered muscarinic receptor M2, M4, they activate the GI. So GI means G inhibitory. Okay, so that will decreases the adenylate cyclase activity. Adenylate cyclase is second messenger. So on the basis of that, the further actions are related. Even in the cancer, these cancer actions, there are G protein coupled receptor, and the actions are generally based upon this adenylate cyclase, then phosphokinase C. So then again that will in the cancer, these are generally activate the histone protein molecule. So that's why there is a increasing the production of new cells. Okay, so these actions are generally related to the same type of a G protein couple receptor are generally present in the means that is a muscarinic receptor. So here if M2 and M4 are there, they activating GI, and odd number muscarinic receptor M1, M3, and M4, they activate the GQ. Okay, so that is excitatory. Okay, so excitatory and inhibitory. If inhibitory activate, then it will decreases the activity of adenylate cyclase, and therefore it will increases the potassium current. Okay, through this cell membrane. So this is a transaction mechanism for the muscarinic receptor. Then here you can see that. Okay, so this is a ligand bind to the receptor. This is G protein coupled receptor. So after activation, there are two routes. There are two second passengers: adenylate cyclase and phospholipase C. If adenylate cyclase activates, adenylate cyclase here, generally if this receptor is a even number, then it inhibit this, and if these are odd number M1, M3, M5, then it activates phospholipase C, and therefore it has a contractile or ion channel actions. Okay, and if it is an inhibitory action, then the enzyme, this is a PK activation and second messenger activation, and further actions are related. So we have already discussed about classification of cholinergic drugs. They are classified into three types: direct acting, indirect acting, and muscarinic antagonist. So antagonist. So first two are cholinomimetic, and this is a cholinolytic. So cholinomimetic agent, they are generally analogs of acetylcholine, and acetylcholinesterase they are indirectly acting cholinomimetic agent. So today we are generally focusing about cholinomimetic agent, which are generally a direct acting cholinomimetics. So here we are starting the cholinomimetic agent. So cholinomimetic, directly acting cholinomimetic agent, they having an example like acetylcholine, muscarine, pilocarpine, oxytolmorine, carbachol, bethane. So if you want to remind them, then there is a one mnemonic is that ABCMNOP. So A for acetylcholine, arecholine, okay. Then B for bethane. Here there is a bethane. Then C for carbachol. Then M for methacholine, then N for nicotine, O for oxytrimorine, and P for pilocarpine. Okay, so again, if you want to remind the structure of these drugs, then acetylcholine is a very simple. You have to always remind this structure. So before going to the structure, you should aware about the choline. So what is the choline? Choline means what? It is a quaternary nitrogen containing it contains a alpha uh, means it contains a this type of functional group means uh, at the beta position there is a oxygen and quaternary nitrogen is there. So quaternary nitrogen having a 3-methyl group, then after that CH2 CH2O, this is a choline group, this is a acetyl group. Actually acetyl group is a up to this, okay. CH3 C double bond O. So this is the acetyl group. So that's why it is named as acetylcholine. Then if you want to remind the structure of a methacholine, so it is again the analog of acetylcholine. But the only difference is that at the position of a beta carbon to the nitrogen, there is a CH3 group. So that is a methacholine. Then after that, carbachol. So carbachol, they having a carbamate structure. So carbamate means what? Carbamate structure is this one. It is also called as a urethane or carbamate. So carbamate structure is a OC double bond O NR2. Means here at the position of a NH2, there is a hydrogens are replaced by the particular functions. So here we are taking a general example. So that's why carbachol having a NH2 at the position of a CH3 of a acetylcholine. Other structure is similar to that of acetylcholine. Only the difference is that at the CH3 there is a NH2. Then in the beta choline, bethane coal, there is a beta beta methylcholine. It is also called as a beta methylcholine. So bethane coal having a similar structure that of a carbachol. The only difference is that at the beta position there is a CH3. Okay, so actually this bethane coal is a combination of a carbachol and methacholine. Carbachol and methacholine. It's a combination. Then after that, muscarine. So muscarine, it is a drug came from fly musca. Okay, structure is a similar to that. It contains a choline structure. Then choline structure from the choline structure, oxygen get migrated to convert it to the furan ring. Okay, so this is a furan. It is a tetrahydro substituted furan. Tetrahydrofuran. So saturated furan. So at the position or at a position, second position there is a CH3 and the third position there is a OH. You have to just again another structure is a pilocarpine. There is a no any similarity between the structure and the name. So that's why you have to remind it. So here on the basis of a name, you can remind it by say for example, here there is a furan ring. Then from the I you can remind it there is a imidazole. Then at the nitrogen there is a CH3, the saturated nitrogen having a CH3. In the imidazole there is a one saturated nitrogen and other is a unsaturated nitrogen. So saturated nitrogen having a CH3 group. Then others are you have to remind it, you have to uh, write it again and again. So you have to practice it on the normal um, white paper or whiteboard. So take a marker and just practice it, so you can remind it. The muscarine and pilocarpine, these structures are somewhat different, so that's why you have to remind it again and again. Other structure you can remind easily, but these two structure you have to at least mark for 5 times. You can get it in the examination. Then after that, the oxytrymorin. So this is the analog of a trimorin. So trimorin is the drug which is used in the Parkinson. So this drug is generally used for um, induction of a Parkinson to develop anti-Parkinsonismic drugs. Okay. Then after that, arecolin is there. So arecolin means what? There is an aromatic ring is there, and the difference with means whatever the basic skeleton is there, that is for the choline, that is similar. Only the difference is that oxygen is at the uh, right hand side to the C double bond O, and here the oxygen is at the side of a nitrogen. Here oxygen is another side to the carbonyl function. Here and in the acetylcholine, oxygen is between the nitrogen and C double bond O. This is the difference between aerocholine and acetylcholine. You have to remind it, because the structure, there may be a chances for misunderstanding to between the drawing the structure between these two. The students are always doing the mistakes here. They write OC double bond O CS3, but actually it is a C double bond O OCS3. It's the oxygen is at the another side to the nitrogen. Okay. Now, next is a cholinomimetic agent. So cholinomimetics or cholinergic agonist, you can call it as a muscarinic agonist also. Most probably these drugs are generally depending upon the muscarinic agent. So they have their primary action on the primary action as excitation or inhibition on the autonomic effector cell, which are innervated by the postganglionic parasympathetic nerves. So they differ from the acetylcholine, like their selectivity, their chemical stability, their resistance to hydrolysis by the cholinesterases, and their duration of action. So on the structural basis, cholinomimetic agents are divided into acetylcholine and its synthetic analog, and natural occurring and synthetic alkaloids. So cholinesterase, and third one is a cholinesterase inhibitors and anticholinesterase or ganglionic stimulant. The last two categories, they do not act at the postganglionic cholinergic effector side. So they produces their effect by acting indirect way. So we will take it, we will go for it in the next lecture. Okay. Now we are generally focusing on these two classes. So first, there is a requirement. What are the requirement for the cholinergic agonist? So first is their stability to the acid which is present in the stomach, and their stability to the esterases. Okay. So then next is their selectivity for the cholinergic receptor. Then selectivity between the muscarinic and nicotinic receptor. Most probably they should have a muscarinic action rather than nicotinic action. Then their knowledge, you should have a knowledge of a binding site, means drug having knowledge of a binding site, and last one is a SR of acetylcholine. So these are the primary requirement for the designing of a cholinergic agonist, and this is because there are poor therapeutic agents generally discovered uh, because of a following because of some property, their properties, like first is the rapid hydrolysis in the aqueous as well as the acidic and alkaline media, and simultaneously the acetylcholinesterase present in the serum as well as a brain tissue. uh, they generally metabolize it very fastly, then because they having a similar structure to that of acetylcholine. Then there is a good water solubility, and therefore the pK uh, uh, is greater than 5, and therefore they're having a poor lipophilicity, and therefore poor absorption and in the through the blood-brain barrier. Then they are non-selective, they are non-selective pharmacological effect, because they are acting centrally, not peripherally. If they are acting centrally, so that's why they're having lots of actions. If you are acting on the central nervous system, then there are further actions there. Most of the actions are branched. So that's why the if you trigger at the prior state, then it will affect onto the lots of effectors. So that's why they are non-selective for the pharmacological effect. Then uh, there are two types of agonist, nicotinic and muscarinic. So here the structure of a nicotine and muscarine is like this. The muscarine having a furon ring, and nicotine having this type of a structure. It having a pyrrole. Okay, both having a different structure. The advantage of this is that they having a more stable acetylcholine, more stable than acetylcholine, and selective for main cholinergic receptor side. And disadvantage is that they activate the receptor for other chemical messenger, and most of them having the side effects. Then acetylcholine as an agonist. Acetylcholine is a natural messenger which is already present in our brain, as well as a it can be easily synthesized. So these because the structure is a basic structure, and disadvantage is that they are easily hydrolyzed in the stomach, then easily hydrolyzed in the blood because of a presence of a butyrylcholinesterase. See, there are two types of esterase present. In the brain, there is a acetylcholinesterase, and in the peripheral side, means below the brain, in the blood, there is a butyrylcholinesterase. So both affect your concentration in the blood, and that's why if they metabolize your drug, that will decrease the concentration, and simultaneously the effect is also lower as the concentration is lower. Then non-selectivity between the receptor type and to the various targets also. Then muscarinic agonist, the acetylcholine, this is the structure of acetylcholine. Here the quaternary ammonium group is there, then ethyl group is there, then acyloxy group is there. So these are the some properties, like see, this acyloxy group undergoes rapid hydrolysis by the acid in the GI tract if you orally administered it, and pseudocholinesterase in the serum. And then if quaternary ammonium group is there, that it impart excellent water solubility, but poor, and therefore it is poorly absorbed for the lipoidal membrane, and because of high hydrophilic and ionic character. Ethylene bridge doesn't matter at all here, because the major actions on the side group. Then prototype, um, these are the properties of a acetylcholine. It is a prototype of a muscarinic and nicotinic agonist, used in the ocular surgery to produce the meiosis, but need to be reconstituted immediately before the injection to the anterior chamber due to the aqueous instability, generally used in a glaucoma. So it cannot be administered topically, because it is not a lipophilic enough to penetrate through the cornea. So that's why we have to take it by the injections. So see, acetylcholinesterase get hydrolyzed in every media. Either it may be a, say, hydrolysis is of two types, acidic as well as a basic. So in any condition, it will get hydrolyzed. See, this is acetylcholine, this is the acid. If we put acid in that, then it will get hydrolyzed at this position. See, the hydrogen attack at the carbonyl oxygen, C double bond O. Then there is a formation of a water. There is a after that there is a breaking of this water molecule and formation of a choline and acetic acid. Again, if you do the alkaline hydrolysis, then this OH will attack at this position. Okay, at this position it will get bind, and again there is a breaking of these bonds, and you will get a acetic acid as an choline. Okay, that will get rearranges. That is known as a ketoenol tautomerism. Like that of a tautomerism happens, and you will get a this starting compounds choline and acetic acid. So cholinergic agonist, nicotinic and muscarinic as a nicotinic agonist. We already seen that. See, this is the major binding sites for the acetylcholine to the particular muscarinic receptor. So here it is a esteretic site, and this is an anionic site. And here the quaternary nitrogen of acetylcholine, this is the bridge, and this is a your C double bond O, means acetyl group, acyloxy group. So acyloxy group bind at the esteretic site onto the muscarinic receptor, and quaternary ammonium will bind at the anionic site of a muscarinic receptor. So here you can see that this is acetylcholine molecule. This is a hydrophobic pocket where the CH3 of acetylcholine that will form van der Waals type of interaction. See this one, then here again there is a hydrophobic pockets. Then this is asparagine that will interact with the cationic sites of a acetylcholine, and the C double bond O will form a hydrogen bond with the ASN. So here you can see that which type of interactions are present. Van der Waals interaction, then this is the ionic bond between this, and here it forms a hydrogen bond. Okay, then again there are possibility of dipole-dipole interaction between quaternary nitrogen and a hydrophobic aromatic ring in the binding sites. So here you can see that the quaternary nitrogen induces dipole in the aromatic ring. See, like this. So this is known as a van der Waals interactions. Now, active conformation of a acetylcholine, I want to most probably talk on this topic, that is stereochemistry of acetylcholine. The acetylcholine, due to the relatively unrestricted rotation about these single covalent bonds, acetylcholine can be exist in the number of a conformation. So you can see that there are number of single bonds, and that's why there is a free rotation across the carbon-carbon single bond. So this conformational isomerism has been studied with respect to the ester, oxygen, and quaternary nitrogen, resulting in the rotation about this rotation about this carbon and CN and CO. So that's why simultaneously here there is again rotation. Okay, so this on the basis of this rotation there is a formation of a number of a conformation. And if you heard about torsion angle, so torsion angle is defined as a it is an angle between two planes. Means, for example, if you consider this oxygen, carbon and nitrogen, then the torsion, if you see from this angle or this angle, you will see the particular torsion. Okay, and that torsion is denoted by the tau. So torsion angle has a positive sign when the bond of a front atom is rotated to the right, which is eclipse the bond at the rear atom. Okay, means for example, if you are watching from this side, then if this bond is rotating this direction, then it is a then your theta, then your tau is a positive, having a positive sign. Then after that, um, you can see here, see this nitrogen, carbon, carbon, and oxygen. These are the planes, and these angles, you can see that is a torsional angle. If you're watching from this side, you will get a torsion angle. So on the looking at the structure, this see anti-periplanar, then synplanar. What type of terms are these? So syn means same side, anti means opposite side, planar means on the same plane. Okay, syn and anti, syn and peri. So syn periplanar, anti periplanar. So periplanar means exactly same plane. Okay, and cleanal means what? They are in the different, they are on the different plane. So here you can see that the uh, if you look at the every structure of this slide, then anti-periplanar conformation is stable because of a bulky group. Okay, this one, this is a stable. It is looking stable, but actually it is not, because NMR, X-ray crystallography, and molecular orbital calculation establish that the preferred conformation of acetylcholine is in the aqueous solution and crystalline state is a synclinal. Okay, this one. Okay, it is also called as a skew or gauche conformation. Skew or gauche conformation. There is a intermolecular interaction, most probably electrostatic type of interaction between the quaternary nitrogen and carbonyl oxygen. Okay, this one. So that's why it has been established with the generally it has been established with the use of preferred conformation for the receptor interaction. So there is a cis, and there are two types of structures on the basis of which we can determine the structure of acetylcholine. Say this one. So this ACTM means what? 2 acidoxy cyclopropyl 1 trimethyl ammonium iodide. Okay, what is that? 2 acidoxy, this 2 acidoxy uh, C for cyclopropyl, then T for trimethyl ammonium iodide. So on the basis of these structures, it has been established that uh, see here we have taken the cis and trans, both example. This is a trans. These both are opposite to each other. Here both are on the same side. So on the basis of this, uh, it has been suggested that uh, acetylcholine most probably would react with the muscarinic receptor in its least favored, that is a anticlinal conformation rather than synclinal. Okay, so this is a muscarine. These are the some examples. Now the it is found that trans having okay. It has been found that the trans conformation is equal or more active than the acetylcholine, and more which is more active than and much more active than negative ACTM. So the racemic cis ACTM has almost no activity at the muscarinic receptor, and all the compounds were very weak in a nicotinic agonist. The stereochemistry of a muscarinic agonist suggests that the muscarine has a 4 geometrical isomer, muscarine, EP muscarine, allomuscarine, and EP allomuscarine. So these are the four. So each geometrical isomer can exist in a enantiomeric pair, and the activity of a muscarinic residue uh, mainly naturally occurring positive muscarine. Okay. Now next is a conformation of acetylcholine. Because of a free rotation, generally the most uh, effective conformation, there are two structurally related compounds. Hmm. So two structure represented. One is a quasi-ring conformation and this is a extended conformation. This quasi-ring conformation means what? Here the cationic and anionic region of acetylcholine get closer to each other and form a ring-like structure, which is known as a quasi-ring conformation. It is also called as pseudo ring conformation. And extended conformation is this one, means both are away from each other. So on the basis of a Newman projection, you can see that here the synclinal or gauche or skew conformation is this one, in which both are near to each other, and this is the most favorable structure for the acetylcholine rather than this one. But according to logical concept, we can say that this both are this structure is a stable, but actually this one is a stable because this is a quaternary ammonium group and this is having a negative charge. So that's why they get close to each other and get form a quasi structure, ring like structure. So here you can see that uh, the muscarinic receptor, the distance between nitrogen and oxygen is shorter, while in the nicotinic receptor, the distance between these are longer. So that's why they're having a different actions. So number of if the rotable bonds are locked, then you will get a specific action. So it will restrict the number of possible conformation and therefore it having a specific action onto the particular receptor, and that's why if your distance is a uh, proper, then it will act on a particular receptor. Okay, so if your distance is a lower, then it will act on the muscarinic receptor. If your distance is a greater, then it will act on the nicotinic receptor. And because of a presence of this rigidity, your structure having a lesser conformation than that of acetylcholine, and they will get specific. So the design of a cholinergic agonist, there is a requirement is, most favorable conditions are there should be correct size, correct pharmacophore ester quaternary and quaternary nitrogen, then increase the stability to the acid and esterases, increase the selectivity. Okay, so these are the some important criteria required to design the cholinergic agonist. So use of a steric shield, uh, in that the rationale is use that the shield protect the ester from the nucleophile and enzyme. Shield size is important, and it must be large enough to hinder the hydrolysis and must be small enough to fit the binding site. Then the SAR of acetylcholine. So SAR most probably it is classified into three types. Here you can see that on the basis of these three region, they are classified: acyl oxy, ethylene bridge, and quaternary nitrogen. So uh, so here the first requirement is that quaternary nitrogen is essential. So if you replace it by the phosphonium, sulfonium, arsenium, or other substrate which is larger than methyl onto the or substances larger than the methyl onto the nitrogen, then it has a less activity than that of acetylcholine and which is not used clinically. There are some exceptions like nicotine, pilocarpine, and aerocolin, which does not have this quaternary nitrogen. Then presence of a 3-methyl group is needed for the agonistic activity. Then changing the 3-methyl group by the higher alkane or hydrogen also causes losing the activity. Replacement with this sulfur removes the positive charge and causes reduction in the activity. Replacement of arsenic or phosphorus maintain the positive charge, but still it reduces activity because of a hydrogen bonding. Then if R is CS3, then the compound is active. Then if R is a CH5, then R means this RR. Okay. Then if it is at the 3-methyl, there is a 3R. So if you are all R of CH3, then active. Then CH5 antagonist. It means it will get directly reverse the activity. Then if R is a C3H9 or higher alkyl, then they are inactive. If only one of the R is a ethyl or propyl, then active but less. It will remain less potent than that of a acetyl. If any or all R is equal to H, then the activity decreases. So means what? The quaternary nitrogen is essential. You can't replace it. You cannot replace it. So on the basis of a conclusion, you means the conclusion is that positive charge needed and should be under nitrogen only. Possible when it bind to the four atoms, that is quaternary form is needed. Then next is a ethylene bridge. So this is very important that the distance between this oxygen and nitrogen is essential. Here the nitrogen is remain. So it distance from the quaternary nitrogen to the ester is important. Ethylene bridge is required. This bridge is required. So again, if you increases the length, activity decreases. If you decreases the length, activity diminishes. So on the basis of this, there are some modifications are done, and on the basis of a activity of this modification, these are the some conclusion. So if you study the series of n-alkyl or trimethyl ammonium salts, there is a Young's rule of 5 is applied, that is a Lipinski rule of 5. So for the maximum muscarinic activity, there should be at least 5 atoms between nitrogen and terminal hydrogen, means from this to hydrogen of this methyl. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This here the carbon is there. So these 5 atoms are required for the maximum activity. Then replacement of a hydrogen atom of ethyl bridge by the alkyl produces less active compound, except when the single hydrogen is replaced by the methyl group. Either at alpha or beta position, you will get a better activity. Then means at this position, this one. Then after that, the presence of a methyl group beta to the quaternary nitrogen increases the muscarinic activity. For example, methacholine. So this is a methacholine. So if you increase the presence of a methyl group, this one at the beta position to the, this is alpha position, this is beta position. At this beta position, methyl group is present, then it will increases the muscarinic activity. High selectivity of a muscarinic action is due to the orientation of a methyl group of a methylcholine in the same position as the methylene group in the muscarine. Okay, this one. Then moreover, the added methyl group hinder the attack of a esterase enzyme, thus slows down the enzymatic hydrolysis. This methyl that will alter the means it interferes with the binding of a esterases and your drug, and that's why the active hydrolysis diminishes and your compound will get more active for the greater period into the particular synapse. Then the methyl group alpha to the nitrogen increases the nicotinic activity. For example, acetyl methylcholine. If the hydrogen from the alpha carbon to the nitrogen is replaced by the methyl group, it gives the acetyl alpha methylcholine and has a greater nicotinic activity than the muscarinic activity. Means if your hydrogen from alpha carbon to the nitrogen is replaced by methyl group, we already seen that in the methylcholine. Then the addition of a methyl group to the one of the carbon on the ethylene bridge result in a asymmetric center, which will exhibit optical isomerism. Then muscarinic receptor and acetylcholinesterase displays the stereoselectivity for the enantiomer of a methylcholine, as a S positive methylcholine is equipotent with the acetylcholine, and R negative methacholine is a 20 times less potent than the acetylcholine. Means if you changes the position, say, due to this there is a chiral center generated, and this chiral center affect your activity. Okay, means S positive is active equipotent, and R negative is a 20 times less potent than the acetylcholine. Then S positive methacholine is hydrolyzed by the acetylcholine at about half rate of a acetylcholine. So that's why it has a greater, it will get a, then R negative, it is not get hydrolyzed by the acetylcholine, but is a weak competitive inhibitor for the enzyme. So the methacholine has a longer duration of action than the acetylcholine. Then after that, acyloxy region. This acyloxy region, this is very important. First of all the groups in the acetylcholine are important. Okay, then after that, if you do the modification at the acyl group, so acyl group substituted by the higher homologs, less active compound. Then choline ester of aromatic or higher homologs, they are acting as an antagonist. This is very important. Means at the position of a CS3, if you put a aromatic ring or any higher analog, means for example C2H5, CS, C3H7, then your activity will be antagonistic, not agonistic. It will not remain as a cholinomimetic. It will get converted into the antagonist, cholinolytic. Then when the terminal methyl group replaced by the NH2 group, then it is equipotent, and which is active for the muscarinic as well as a nicotinic receptor. Then the carbachol is stable to the hydrolysis and has a right size to fit the cholinergic receptor. Then the carbamic acid ester of is also a therapeutically active agent and stable than that of acetylcholine. Then prosthetic distance in the acetylcholine means, for example, ketonic oxygen means C double bond O, oxygen of a C double bond O to the methyl, and that is a 7 angstrom, and the ether oxygen and the methyl, that is a 5.3 angstrom. So the interprosthetic distance for the acetylcholine, methacholine, carbamylcholine, then urocholine, they are all same. So we can say apparently that if the interprosthetic distances are optimal, receptor on the cell do not differentiate between the ether, ketone, ester, and acyloxy oxygen atoms. So in the carbachol, the size remains same to the acetylcholine. So it becomes apparent that the size doesn't matter. Size of a molecule important than that of a acyl group. So if oxygen, ether oxygen is then ether oxygen is important for the muscarinic activity. Then for example, see here you can see that this oxygen is important. Okay, then if you replace this oxygen by the sulfur, for example in a thiomuscarine, then your activity decreases because of this oxygen having a greater hydrogen bonding capacity with the receptor than that of a sulfur having a lesser action. So that's why whenever you are going to design a drug, if you want to design a competitive inhibitor or any type of a compound, Then if you want hydrogen, proper hydrogen bond, then you need not to put a sulfur at that place, because sulfur having a lesser tendency to form a hydrogen bond, okay, rather than oxygen, nitrogen, oxygen and nitrogen. The reducer biological activity of oxygen is replaced by the sulfur because of hydrogen bonding and dipole-dipole interaction, as I already told you. The concept of a concept that the ester, okay, so that we already covered. Then the compound in this series shows the muscarinic activity when the N is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. The compound with the uh, groups larger than the pentyl were partial agonist, and those with the groups larger than the heptyl were acting as an antagonist. This appears to believe that the hypothesis that the size rather than the functional group is necessary for the intrinsic activity at this position, at this site. Then after that, some important concept like minimum two methyl groups on the quaternary nitrogen. Then methyl groups of acyl group cannot be extended. Then this is a general summarization of your SAR. Okay, so there are some side reactions, side effects. All the synthetic choline esters should never be administered intravenous route. This is very important points. Then they are usually administered preferably by the oral or subcutaneous route. The usual side effects are salivation, vomiting, severe gastrointestinal cramps, etc. And the contraindication indication is that whenever you are suffering from peptic ulcer, bronchial asthma, hypertension, urinary tract infection, or GIT obstructions, then you need not to be taken. You need not to take these derivatives. They are contraindicated. Then uh, then after that, so in our syllabus there is a carbachol is there. Hmm, yes, carbachol. I think carbachol. Yes, carbachol, acetylcholine. We already finished. Carbachol, methancol, and pilocarpine. Oh, so this is carbachol. Uh, Similar structure to that of acetylcholine, and only the difference is that at the position of a CS3 there is a NH2. This group is known as a urethane. Okay, so they are having a certain property like they shows no selectivity for the muscarinic or nicotine receptor because it is a carbamide ester resistant toward acid base and enzymatic reaction, as this group is a neutral one. Then it exhibit a weak anticholinesterase activity, and these drugs are long lasting, and NH2 and CH3 are equal in size, so both fit in the hydrophobic pocket. Then NH2 is the bioisoster of a CH3, and muscarinic activity are similar to that of a nicotinic activity for this carbachol, and they are used for the used topically for the glaucoma. So glaucoma is generally it is a eye disease characterized by the increase in intraocular pressure. It leads to the irreversible loss of a vision and is the second leading cause of a blindness. So treatment of a glaucoma focuses on relieving the pressure. So carbachol causes miosis by contracting the ciliary muscle and tightening the trabecular meshwork, and that allows the increase the outflow of aqueous humor and therefore decreasing the pressure. Then methancol, uh, beta choline It is also called a beta choline. So steric and electronic factors affect their actions. So they are non-specific in its action to the muscarinic subtypes, but appear to be more effective in the eliciting pharmacological action at the M3 receptor. So therefore, it is used in the relief of urinary retention, abdominal dist distension after surgery. Then cholinergic crisis if it is given by intravenous or intramuscular injection. It is very stable, orally active. Then pilocarpine. So it is a hydrochloride of alkaloid obtained, which is obtained from a dry leaflet of a Pilocarpus jabrondii or Pilocarpus microphyllus. It is non-selective agonist on the muscarinic M3 receptor in the smooth muscle, which causes contraction in the gut, trachea, and eye. It is used in treatment of a glaucoma, simultaneously in the xerostomia, which is known as a dryness of a mouth, which is caused by the radiation therapy of a head and neck, or again, loss of a psychotropic drugs causes dryness of a mouth. So for that purpose, this pilocarpine is taken. Then pilocarpine is marketed as a tablet of Salogen. So this question is asked in the GPAT examination. Then ophthalmic solutions and it is also available in the ophthalmic solution and gels. It penetrates the eyeball and myotic choice for the open angle glaucoma. To terminate acute angle closure attack. It also uses for the treatment of a xerostomia, which is caused by the radiation therapy. Uh, this stability of a pilocarpine, it is not needed. Actually, their epimerization as well as a hydrolysis causes the inactive form of a pilocarpine. So epimerization does not believe to be serious problem in the drug is probably stored because the drug is inactive. If it is inactive, metabolite get excreted from the body. So its solution stored at the room temperature, but gel should be refrigerated and able to be second with expiration date when dispensed. Okay, so these are all are related to the cholinomimetic agent. Here we have finished this.